Hi everyone, Jasmine here, and you have made it to my blogging Q&A. So things are going to be a little bit different this time, mostly because um, this is my last blogging Q&A. So um, I'm going to be sharing some information about why this is my last blogging Q&A, as well as giving you guys some information on what I'm going to be doing next instead of the blogging stuff. Um, but just giving you guys a quick overview, if this may be your first time here, and even if it's not, just a highlight of who I am. Hi, I'm Jasmine. I've been blogging for, it's going to be 14 years this year. And I love it. I love it when it comes to just being able to create content online, generating traffic, and just seeing how this space has really changed in that time frame. Has been very interesting to see. So yeah, that's why I do this blogging Q&A for anyone who is a blogger or an influencer and they want some advice on how to grow their blogs. I like to have this time set out once a month so that I may answer any questions that you may have when it comes to blogging. So I had two blogs, Miss Millennium Magazine, and my second is Blogging Money Life, which is the channel that you're probably watching this video on right now. Um, and I actually made a decision fairly recently, this month. Actually, I made the decision sooner, but it just happened this month where I shut down my Blogging Money Life website, mostly because that was one site that I started in 2021. So it's my newer blog and it was doing fairly well for itself, all things considered. um, and I drove most of my traffic to that site through Google. And the issue I ran into with Google, as many of you may know, is that Google made a lot of changes. Actually, they started making those changes in 2020, but they made a lot of changes in the last few years that has resulted in what I've seen, a mass exodus of bloggers leaving this industry because they can't sustain anymore. Now, I mentioned I have two blogs. I have my blog I started almost 14 years ago, Miss Millennium Magazine, but I also have another blog on Blogging Money Life. That is the one I started in 2021. And the benefit of having two blogs at this point in time is that I had one blog that sustained, and that is Miss Millennium. Whereas my blog for Blogging Money Life, I lost pretty much 90% of my traffic to that site because of all the Google changes. And one of the big reasons for that is because um, I had the time and ability to be able to grow my blog and the traffic that comes to it um, by just spreading it out a little bit further. So think of it as I was getting traffic from Google, I'm getting traffic from Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, especially. I'm getting a lot of traffic from Pinterest. And because I'm doing all of those things in regard to, diversifying my traffic, my Miss Mill site is still getting good traffic. It still saw a huge drop in traffic, but it didn't take all of my traffic. Like that's what happened with Blogging Money Life. And that's why I decided to shut it down. Um, but all that said, that's what made me decide to shut down that blog. And then when it comes to Miss Mill, it's just going to take a little bit more of a backseat. Just because I want to take some time to dedicate my efforts into a new venture. And my reasoning for that is, one, the Google changes, two, just time. Like I'm a mom now, and I have a 2-year-old, and if anything, um, it has shown me how valuable your time is. And as much as I enjoy blogging and I enjoy the things that I've learned and what I get to do with it, I definitely value the time I can spend with my family, and I'd rather spend that time working on something that's actually going to bring in income for my family, as well as just still being able to develop the skills that I've honed over the years. So, a quick background story. I mentioned that I've been blogging for 14 years, and I know I told this story in some of my earlier Q&As when I first started doing this. But when I first started blogging, I kind of fell into it, and when I was in college, I used to freelance write. So I used to write for websites like Yahoo, Associated Content, just a bunch of places that took guest writers, and I would do that in college, and it would bring in some extra money for me. And it was just a nice hustle. I loved writing. I love that I can get paid to write. It just felt so freeing and so like I was so vindicated being knowing that I was a paid writer when I was in college. And when I was in college, I was majoring in fashion. Okay, so many of you may know this story already, but I was majoring in fashion. And when I graduated, it took all 4 years of my undergrad for me to realize that once I graduated, I did not want to pursue a career in fashion anymore. That just was not something I really aspired to. And what's funny saying this now is because I wanted my time. I wanted to be able to have a life outside of my career. And when I went to school at the Fashion Institute of Technology, they were telling me how cutthroat the fashion industry is, and if I wanted to have a successful career in it, I was going to have to put some things on the back burner, like having a family and overall just having a life that didn't revolve around my career, and that's something that I didn't want. So here I was. I just graduated. I just got my degree. I have no idea what I want to do as a career, and I'm kind of flailing a little bit. I'm freaking out because I just spent all this money to get this degree and I don't want to pursue fashion. I don't know what to do. But I thought back to what I enjoyed doing and I loved getting paid to write. So I thought about the people who were paying me, a little bit here and there to write. And I'm like, how can I be the publisher? And that's how I developed my site, Miss Millennium Magazine. I started writing about things that I was realizing at that time, being a millennial, graduating into a recession, and just realizing that I wasn't prepared. I was not prepared for what I call the real world post college. And I talked to a lot of my friends who were feeling the same way, and they wrote content for me. And that's how my blog got started. That's how I got into blogging. This was before blogging was even really a term that people knew what it was and was something that people knew they could do. So that's how I got my start with my blog, Miss Millennium Magazine. And I have learned a lot over the years. I started doing that, and shortly after, and when I say shortly, I mean probably like 6 months or so after I graduated, and this is after I started my blog, Miss Millennium, I got my first job out of college, which was being a social media manager for a company in Texas. So they moved me from Ohio to Texas. And the only reason I got that job was because of all the skills I built with starting a blog and building a website and honing in on different marketing skills from me starting my blog. So I love telling that story because having a blog and developing those skills that come with building a website and creating content on that website really prepared me for the career that I'm in right now. Right now, I'm a director of marketing strategy and content for a compliance agency. And I've worked in a variety of different industries, doing different content marketing for these various companies. And I have all of that. I've started that experience with being able to blog, like learning some skills from blogging and then continuing to hone those skills. Like I love when I go into interviews and people ask me about my blog, they tell me things, they say stuff like, so how do we know you're not going to compete? with your blog with us, and how we know you're not going to leave once your blog like takes off and it's just this famous thing. And something I always tell people is like, well, my blog is why I have the skills I have to do the job here. And I love using my blog as like a place to test out different skills, and learn different things and apply that to my day job. And that's what I've been doing for some time now. Even in my job right now, there's so many tools and tactics I know about because of things that I try out on my blog, and I apply it after I realize that it works to my organization. But yeah, all that to say is, with this space, there's always change. There's always ways to morph, and there's always a direction where you can take the skills that you have. And that's something that I've realized along the way, obviously, but something that I still continue to develop and keep in mind. The landscape has changed drastically, to the point where, it doesn't seem viable for me to continue on with two blogs. I still have one, and I'm only going to focus on just creating content for it and making sure that content goes out. But other than that, I'm not really doing much with it, outside of maintaining my email list, maintaining my Facebook group, and just going from there. Honestly, I plan on asking my audience and getting their take on what they want this to be. What do they want to hear? What do they want to know? And just get that content to them. But all the growth and strategies and figuring out different opportunities to grow my site, that's something that I'm thinking I'm going to put in the past. So anyway, the question you may be asking is, well, what the heck are you going to do? You hype this up for, all this stuff. You're not going to do blogging anymore. What are you going to do? Well, I'll tell you. My next venture, what I plan on doing is starting a content marketing consultancy. And I will be working with small businesses, small to medium-sized businesses who need help with their marketing strategy, as well as any type of content marketing. So think about an overall marketing strategy, focus on digital marketing, whether that be video, blog posts, social media, lead magnets, white papers, just any type of content that needs to be developed to grow your brand and boost your overall income. Something that I notice when it comes to marketing in this space in my career is that when I tell people that I'm a marketer, they immediately think about shows like Emily in Paris, where she's just out gallivanting around and she's taking really cool pictures and putting them on Instagram and going to these cool galas. And, that's pretty much the essence of her job. It's super glamorous. She gets to travel. And I think those elements definitely are part of marketing, but I like to focus more on the revenue generating side of marketing, meaning what what was the result? What was the ROI of these pictures you took at this gala? And how much did we spend? Did we actually get a monetary value out of spending this much money on marketing? Because the thing is, marketing is like gambling. And that, I mean, if you ask any company who's hired like a marketing firm or I don't know, just any type of marketing agency, like sometimes you spend money and nothing happens. And sometimes you spend, money and like a lot of things happen. It's really just a scientific experiment. And so long as you're making good hypotheses and looking at your data and making good decisions, then you should see a lot of success when it comes to your marketing. But that's not always the case, because a lot of people think of marketing, they think, oh, I just got to take some pictures. I just had to create an Instagram account. I just have to write some blog posts without any keyword research. Like, there's just so many things that go into it. So I'm starting a consultancy. And while I will be focused on, like I said, small to medium-sized businesses, I definitely want to keep the people that I work with and that watch these YouTube videos of mine, because I feel like it's not called blogging anymore, right? There are influencers, there's vloggers, there's so many terms, but blogging is something that is just not as widely done or accepted anymore. And while I still feel like there's still a good amount of content marketing that's happening, whether that be having a company blog or having a Instagram channel or a Facebook page, I feel like those elements are still there. It's just been branded differently. And with that said, I feel like there is a more multifaceted approach when it comes to a successful marketing campaign. And we know this too as bloggers, right? Because if you want to do a campaign to promote, to launch your product, what would you do? You would send some emails out to your list. You would post about it on all your social media channels. You would write multiple blog posts about it. You do videos on it. You find ways to promote it on different channels. And that's kind of what I want to do. Like, I want to look at this holistic approach when it comes to marketing outside of just blogging, and be able to help people hone that craft. When it comes to what my views are, when it comes to marketing, and why I think this is a good avenue for me to go down, not just from a monetary positivity, a monetary reason, which, that's a big part of it. But another reason for me to do it is because I feel like, people have different philosophies when it comes to marketing. And I feel like my philosophy has come from all the years that I've worked, not just on my blog, but also on working with various mentors. I've had so many mentors in my career. I've had blog coaches. I've had lots of training that I've gone through, not only in college for marketing, but also courses that I've taken, conferences I've attended. And my pathos when it comes to what makes for the successful core pillars for marketing, here's how I think about it. The first is strategy, right? So I feel like this is something that a lot of organizations are missing. They say, like, we need more traffic, let's go post something on social media, but they don't really have a plan in place. They don't have goals set for, what do you want to get out of this? They don't put any money behind it to do like ads or anything like that. There's no real strategy. And I think that is where a lot of organizations go wrong, and influencers too. I feel like we don't think about what our strategy is. How are we going to differentiate ourselves? What is the plan? Because if you don't have a strategy and you're just kind of throwing spaghetti on the wall, you're not really giving it your all, right? And I understand the hesitancy to like commit to focusing on one thing or even two things or three things, or just putting a strategy together in general to say, like, here's my plan, here's what I'm going to do, and sticking to that plan, because there's so many things out there. There's so many different channels, especially now, like, are you on TikTok or not? We didn't have it for a few days, and now we have it again, and people are back on it. But then there's Red Note, and then there's Blue Sky, and there's just all these different social media platforms that you could potentially be on. And the reality is, if you're a small business, you don't have the resources to be on all of them. You don't have the time or the money probably to be on all those channels. So having a strategy, that's the first thing you need to do. The second, when I'm talking about what my belief is when it comes to marketing and how to be successful with it, is focus. So I mentioned there's so many different channels you can be on, and that's just like social media. That's not counting advertising. Are you gonna do a LinkedIn ad? Are you gonna do a Facebook ad? Are you gonna do a Pinterest ad? YouTube, X? There's so many places you can be, and you have to understand where your audience is. And, that's part of like figuring out the strategy, who your target audience is, and all those things. But once you have your strategy, prioritizing what is most important for you to focus on, and just focus on those things. You don't have to do 100 different platforms. Stick to the 3 to 5 that you know that you'll be successful on. So that's the second part of my philosophy on what makes for a good strategy and marketing campaign. And then the third, and I feel like this part is where my strengths lie. This is why I've had success not only in my career, but also with blogging. And it is intentional execution. So something that I've never forgotten is my sister. She once called me um, a chronic overdoer. And I could not come up with a more accurate saying for like how I've had so much success. So for example, I'll find a strategy that works well. For example, I learned that pinning my blog posts to tailwind communities leads to more traffic. There's a one-to-one correlation. If I pin to communities, I'm going to get more traffic to my website. Now, a normal person would go and just pin, one to, maybe 10 to 15 stories. I mean, the pins to communities. No, not me. I will pin 50, 100, 200, 300. Like I am like going nuts because there is no maximum. There's no, until I get to the point where my efforts start to reduce, I'm going to figure out what that is. And I feel like if we find things from our strategy and from the places that we need to be, and then we test some things out and we see that it works, then you go hard on that thing that works. Do not stop, and you will see success. Well, I mean, you don't stop until you see that it starts to have a negative effect. But that's how I go about doing things, like execute with intention. And that's not to say that it's always like, you have to get 300, 500 things in. Sometimes it's a matter of, focusing on, all right, I posted on 5 different pages, and out of those 5 pages, only 2 pages brought traffic back to me. I am going to learn everything I need to know about those pages. I'm going to optimize to figure out why these 2 pages did so well. Try out different things so I can figure out what kind of content does well on those 2 pages. And then once I hone that in to the point where I am hitting a ceiling, I am going to go and find other pages that mimic those 2 pages that I've had success on. So that's what I mean when I say intentional execution. It's a matter of really thinking through all the details of what works. First of all, figuring out what works, and then learning why it works, and then executing with intention, knowing that this will work. I'm going to see how far I can go with this thing that works until it doesn't work anymore. And that's how I managed to go through all of this. So that's it. That is my 3-step approach when it comes to strategic marketing and what I'm going to make my main focus in my consultancy. Now, this may apply to you, this may not. Honestly, I feel like if you are a blogger, you are also a marketer because you use those same skills. Like I said, I gained my first skills for my first marketing job through my blog that I started. And if you ever wanted to start a business, whether that be an e-commerce business or maybe you do marketing as well for your organization and you're looking for an approach to help you expand, I'm your girl. Like, reach out and I can help you with that. So something that I wanted to do, like I said, is just share where I was going with this in regard to my overall blog transition or blogging transition. But also like make sure that I'm around. I'm still going to be doing a lot of the same things that I talk about on these calls every month, but I'm just going to be doing it a little bit differently. So I'm putting a link here in the chat if you're interested in learning more about my new venture. I created a wait list so that you can add yourself to it. And if you have any questions for me, you can, you can comment in the comments here. But if you want to know more about what this is going to look like for me and if it's something that could potentially work for you, add yourself to the wait list and I will make sure to get you some information. So that's the first part of this that I want to make sure that you're aware of. But the second part is that I'm also open to referrals. So If you know of anyone who could use my services, I do offer a referral fee. So if I get a customer through someone you referred to me, just if they tell me that, hey, this person referred me, I'll make sure that you get a commission for them working with me and being a successful customer on their first project. So if you want more details on that, feel free to send me an email. I'm happy to get you an answer. You can still email me to my typical place. Put it here. And I can get you answers on what that looks like. Is that right? Yes. Answers on what that looks like, but please feel free to join my email list so that you don't miss out on anything from there. So anyway, I know that my typical cadence for this is answering any blogging questions. And I know I just gave you a lot of information in regard to where I'm going, why I'm not going to have the blogging Q&As anymore, but I still want to make room for anyone who has any final questions or comments or anything about their blogs. I'm still going to have a blog. It's still going to be out there, and you can answer you can do what you want with that, as far as like just seeing what I'm doing and how I'm still like riding the tide when it comes to all this Google stuff. And if you're on my Miss Mail email list, you'll see more in regards to like what I'm doing and my consultancy as well. But I felt like even though I kind of announced this in an email earlier this month, I still wanted to do this call with you all just so that we can just have a face-to-face and I can talk to you and tell you, how I got here and why I'm doing it. And, how I think that it's something that can still benefit you. There's a possibility I may do another, monthly YouTube video just to share information about what I know about marketing and how you can take the things that I've learned and apply it to your business. But no promises. No promises. I'm very much in a phase of just figuring out what this is going to look like, what this looks like for my future in general, and seeing how I feel about it. So yeah, that's what I have for y'all. If you have questions, feel free to post them in the chat. And what else? Of course, like if you have any questions later on, you can post them in the comments and I get an answer on YouTube, or you can send me an email to the email address that I share in the chat here as well. And I'm happy to answer them. But if there's no other questions, I just want to say that it's been a pleasure. I know I say this every month, but I've really enjoyed having this time to just talk about blogging and answer any questions and just hear the stories from everyone else about how your blogs have changed and grown. And yeah, I'm going to miss that. I'm going to miss seeing all those updates on things that have changed and how the things I'm sharing is applying and how you're being impacted by all these changes. So yeah, that's all I got. JJ says, thank you, Jazz. Pivoting is good. Yeah, because at the end of the day, like, you have really good skills. If it's something that you've been thinking about doing, I highly recommend it. Because there's still value in content. There's still value in social media and influencers and in people who blog. It's just a matter of making sure that you're going in a direction where you're not swimming against the current, I guess is a good way to put it. So yeah, that's all I got. Thanks so much for joining me. And until next time, thanks everyone. Bye.